This is the Infinite Receiving Podcast, helping conscious leaders tap into a wealth of abundance across all areas of your life and business. I'm Susie Ashworth, and I'll be sharing with you how you can upgrade your reality through quantum transformation, because you are ready for infinite receiving. You are going to love this episode. I introduce you to my friend, Kate Northrup. She is famous for working with ambitious folks who want to light up the world without burning out. She's a best-selling author. She's host of the Plenty podcast. You may have read her book, Money, A Love Story, or her latest one, Do Less. This episode, we go deep on what it means to create safety within the body so that you are able to achieve more of what it is that you desire. We talk about love, we talk about sex, we talk about work, we talk about divinity, God, we talk about all of the things. It's really juicy. I hope you love it. And without any further ado, I'm going to let you dive on in. Hello, you gorgeous human being. It is Susie Ashworth here, and you are listening to the Infinite Receiving Podcast. And I have got a juicy episode for you today. I'm really excited, actually, to introduce you to my friend, my mastermind sister, someone who has shown me a huge amount of support when it comes to writing Infinite Receiving, an incredible woman, mentor, coach, money queen, somebody who helps people do less, make more, love life, all of the good things. I think that's probably been the longest non-intro I've ever given anybody.
So. I appreciate it. I liked it. I always like to know what my friends say about what I do, because I have trouble answering the question, what I do. Yeah. So it's very helpful for me to hear you say it.
You're very welcome. And if you are not familiar with the dulcet tones of this incredible woman, let me introduce you to the fantabulastic Kate Northrup.
Hello. Thank you for having me, Susie. I'm so thrilled to be here today.
Yeah, well, I'm really happy for us to be having this conversation. I'm going to share actually with the audience that I pulled a card for us before we started from Rebecca Campbell's deck, Starseed deck, called The Blue Flame. And it's about spontaneous awakening, activation, integration time, and energetic upgrades. And I shared this with Kate and she said, yes, please. And it really made me chuckle. But I am curious, is there anywhere in your life right now where you are feeling like there are energetic upgrades either needed or happening?
Yes. I mean, always, but in particular right now, I am doing a lot. So a lot of my work comes back to the body, even though I talk about productivity and I talk about money. Really, I'm always just talking about embodiment. People don't really know that until they come in behind the scenes and then they're like, oh, I see what's happening here. But really using our bodies as a tuning fork for the frequency that we want to express in this lifetime at this time. And so right now, I'm personally, ever since I turned 40 6 months ago, I have been doing some massive upgrades around my vitality. And I've always been an incredibly healthy person, always like really, focused on that. But I just took it up a notch. And so recently I've been learning more about how I can energetically upgrade physically to become a wider receiver for life force energy that wants to come through me and then be expressed as my creativity and my work in the world, and really looking at like how I can literally take the energy of the sun and move it, like bring it through my body, through my mitochondria, expand my mitochondria's ability to make ATP, to make energy, to literally supercharge my physical body. So I'm supercharging my energy body. So those are the energetic upgrades that I'm doing, like
I feel like this is almost
sunshine and
this,
cold plunging and
this is
high
almost
intensity interval training. And
yeah, I want us to drill down into that a little bit more, but I just want to say that's almost a sexual conversation for me. I'm just like, that is just all of the things, because for me, 45 and really in earnest, actually now experiencing perimenopausal symptoms and also feeling a whole new lease of life. And so it's this really interesting dance between stuff that is falling away, stuff that feels like it's changing and evolving, and then also like, and me letting go. And then there's this whole new, like, activated, sexy, sensual Susie that is coming through with this new phase of life. So everything that you just said there to me was
yes,
like, yes, let's go into that. So I'm curious.
yes. Okay, let's go there.
Well, you said that people don't really know that actually all of your work is about the body. And I am curious, when did your journey with the body and understanding embodiment really begin?
I mean, I've always just been a body person. I was a dancer, and I I think that the image that's coming to me right now is I took this class my freshman year in college with a woman named Michelle Bach Coulibaly, and she was my advisor, and she was the director of my dance company, and I signed up for this class, which I was a freshman, and I was coming from a small town in New England, and this class at Brown was like this. Essentially, it was a deep embodiment class, and we would do these movement meditations where we would go inside and essentially close our eyes and dance our feelings. And I don't know that that was what was written in the course catalog, but that is what was happening. And it was one of the most cathartic, beautiful experiences. And then our final project was to create dance pieces that were original dance pieces that included, poetry and props and spoken word and, all kinds of things, and really like understanding the body as an act, as a communication tool. That was also my college entrance exam, was about the way that we can communicate with our bodies things that we cannot communicate with our words. And so I guess then no one ever asked me that question before. So my answer is a little bit like bumpy, but that's the answer.
What did you learn about your body during those dance classes that you didn't know before?
So the body for me, it's so funny. 2 days ago, I was doing this workout. I do this workout sometimes called the class, which I just love. If anyone's wanting like a really good emotional and physical catharsis, it's like such a great sweat session, and also like an incredible emotionally like cleansing workout. So I started doing those workouts during the lockdown of the pandemic, and they really got me through. So I was doing a streaming class with my kids because they were home and I wanted to work out. So I was like, okay, great. We're going to all do this together. And I'm watching my girls in their bodies and how free they are. I have a 5.5-year-old and an 8-year-old, and just like watching them enjoying being in their bodies and giggling and just like in the full freedom and expression of it. And I looked at my older girl, and she's 8, and I felt this overwhelming rush of joy because I remember for the first time thinking I was fat when I was 7. And when I was 7, I was first conscious of wanting to change my body. And my older girl is a full year past that, a year and change. And not once has she ever talked about her body as an object. She has never discussed how it looks or it wanting to be different, or other than like she wants to have a thick braid like Elsa, which is just never going to happen for her. And that's fine unless she gets extensions, but like that I'm like, okay, whatever. And so we can always put on a hairpiece, but I remember for myself, my body was an access point to my greatest joy and liberation and expression, but it also was a real battleground of shame and a feeling of it being wrong. And that's been an ongoing journey in my life, just really realizing that like the body is to live in. Primarily, first and foremost, the body is our home. The body is not to be specifically like shaped in a way that is pleasing for society. And so anyway, I don't remember the question anymore, but that's my answer. And maybe you can remind me what it was.
I was like, what did you learn about your body in those classes that you didn't know before?
That's such a great question. So what I learned, I think that it's still like, I will just say like, this is an ongoing thing for me. So this is not like a one and done, but I think those classes helped me access the truth of my body being a portal for life force, for an access to the depths of my soul, for an access to spiritual energy, for an access to Eros, life force, that like there was something going on there that was not about like, was I pointing my toe correctly? Did I have the steps right? Did I look good in a leotard? Like what I learned about my body is that it was a tool for expression of what it means to be human, in a way that I don't think I had realized before.
When you say life force, and you kind of touched on it there, you said a portal for spirit, a portal for Eros. Would you add anything else to what it means to you when you say life force?
Yeah, so our bodies are, they're these carbon-based organisms, right? So we are nature. There is no separation. Our bodies are animals. And however, they're made out of the same thing as like rocks.
Yeah. I say the stars.
So we just have to really, but like
we're magic.
And the stars.
Yeah.
We are magic. But what is the difference between a body that is animated by life and a body of someone who is deceased? It's the spark of the divine. It's the presence of life force. It's the presence of that which is alive. Yeah. And that which is alive, that energy is to me the expression of the divine that lives in each of us. It's that which makes it so that my body is alive versus when it's not alive later. And so life force to me is like, and I don't know exactly what it is, but it's essentially like, what does it mean to be alive? And anytime I'm exploring the question of what does it mean to be alive, the road always takes me to the divine. It always takes me back to God, back to that. And for me, the feeling of God is that which is larger than me, my personality, that which connects all things, all beings, that brings us wonder, that brings us, and it really is like, it's life force. It's the animating force of beings. It's the difference between being alive and being dead. Yeah. And I think it's my purpose, I'll just speak for myself. My purpose is to explore the fullness of life force in this body, in this lifetime, and find out all the places that it wants to take me.
So first of all, love that. And this is an exploration of just for myself as well. And at times I have had very potent and powerful visceral shifts in my body through very specific practices that have allowed me to feel, not just know, but feel the energy of divinity moving through me. And it has been, I love the idea of living my life like that all of the time. And the reality is the times that I have experienced that, it's been a plant medicine ceremony, or it's been on retreat with Layla Martin and, doing a whole sacred sexuality thing. It's like, it's not every day. And this is in infinite receiving. And I also think it's part of the message of Money, a Love Story, is that one expression of life force is our connection with love. and allowing more and more, like how much more love can you allow in this moment, and how much more presence can you bring to the frequency of love in this moment. And when we start bringing our intention and consciousness to that question, and then the allowing of that, we can have this deeper experience of life force moving through us. And so I am curious for you, like now, for the people who are listening to this episode, or even for you right now, because I always feel like this is, we talk about this at an intellectual level, but there's always an opportunity. And so if the opportunity is right now for us to experience more of our life force, what can we do, Kate? What can we do?
So I love this. Oh my God. I'm so happy we're having this conversation today. So you said that, those kind of peak divine energy, life force moments for you have sometimes been in a plant medicine ceremony or at a retreat with our friend Layla Martin and sacred sexuality and whatever. And same, right? So I'll just say same, or like giving birth or, these are these key moments, like epic dance parties that aren't every day. But I'll tell you what, the way that I have been practicing and then passing along to my community, expanding my capacity to be a conduit for life force, has been to sense into the life force that's available in the smaller moments. So I was just leading a retreat called Conduit this past week. And one of the participants was asking me about this concept of life force, because in our culture, life force has been equated in many ways with sexual energy. And by the way, it is. It like 100%. However, the way our culture has, this is like a whole conversation, but we've had thousands and thousands of years of a misunderstanding of sexual energy, because while sexual energy is life force energy, we've had a culture that's taught us that it's dirty or wrong, because it is ultimately our source of power, our connection with our life force energy that is absolutely individual, that no one else needs to mitigate for us, is our access to our power. And life in and of itself is sexual. Every single person on the planet came here through at least one person's orgasm.
Yeah.
Hopefully two. But for sure, there was one orgasm. Okay. And so like life itself is a sexual expression. And so we need to know that our life force energy and sexual energy are the same, except for the fact that the way our culture understands sexual energy is largely a misunderstanding. So I like to talk about life force energy just in terms of that which makes us come alive, moments when we feel more alive.
Yeah.
And so I explained it to this amazing woman at the retreat. I said, I am having a love affair with this bougainvillea plant on my balcony. I am so into this plant. The color is so intoxicating. The way the petals are, it's this deep magenta. They're slightly translucent, but then they also like have this richness. And then she's just so gorgeous. And then the leaves and the way, and I sit there in the morning in my egg chair, sitting next to this bougainvillea, watching the sunrise, and I drink my coffee, and I can feel the pulse of life force between me and this bush. And like, I am tingling right now thinking about it. And like, in this moment, my boobs are like having this feeling that they would get when I would hear like my baby cry or whatever, like that. I literally like oxytocin is coursing through my body. I'm having a whole letdown situation and I haven't nursed a baby in over 3 years. So like, I just like, this is the power of our physiology, and our physiology gives us a map. It gives us a map for how we can let more life run through us. For example, When we hug another human being for more than 20 seconds, which if you do it, it'll feel awkward at first because 20 seconds is definitely beyond the societally acceptable length of a hug, especially if you're British or from New England like we are. Okay, maybe if you live in Austin, a 20-second hug is like super normal. Where we come from, it's not. Right? And so to know, okay, there's all these things that happen in our body. Oxytocin gets released when we are in contact with another human, body to body, heart to heart for over 20 seconds. Why? Because our bodies always know the truth. Our bodies know the truth that there is no separation. When two or more are gathered in my name, there so am I. And so, oh my God, I'm just having chills saying this, right? So like when we move towards that which makes us feel more alive, our entire vascular system shifts. We have oxytocin and nitric oxide, which is literally the chemical of orgasm. We have more oxygen running through. We have more access to respiration. Our mitochondria expands. Like our bodies do this incredible thing when we make certain choices that move us in the direction of life.
Yeah.
And they respond, and then they open up the channels to make more of that even available. So like when we're learning about pleasure, when we're learning about presence, when we're learning about focus, all these things that we want to practice, the great news is our capacity is infinite. I mean, that's why your podcast and your book are called Infinite Receiving. There is no ceiling on how much we can feel when we practice. And then it's like so good. So like I can sit there on my silly little tiny balcony with my bougainvillea and have an ecstatic experience. I don't have to go to the jungle and do plant medicine, even though I do sometimes, but you know what I mean? Like it's about how much of this can we bring to our daily life as well, so that there's not a separation between like, okay, now I'm balancing my checkbook and now I'm in sacred ceremony, so that it all can be an expression of love and life force.
So I'm just picturing you on the balcony with your bush getting all excited and just being like, woohoo! But what was striking me in this conversation is just how alive you sound when you're recounting the situation. And that's the words, that's the storyteller in you. When you're there, though, and it's just you and your coffee, that vocal piece, which is part of an activation when you bring it to the group, isn't there. So what is happening with you for you to be able to access the magnificence of this super simple thing that many people would probably just walk past? Like, what is it that you're tapping into?
Yeah, I love it. Okay, so some people would call it presence, but I don't really call it that. I allow myself to receive more sensory information. So really looking at like, what is the color in the sky through my eyes? Like, what's the color? What's the color of the petal? And like allowing myself to receive the pleasure in the visual information, so I rock in that egg chair. It's one of those little chairs that hangs. So the rocking actually is very soothing to my vestibular system. It's very soothing to the vagus nerve. So I am able to, it's also first thing in the morning and I feel pretty good. I'm a morning person, but like I'm also signaling safety in my nervous system in that moment, which through the rocking, which allows more capacity to be fully in that moment, which then allows more opening for sensory information. The warmth of my mug of coffee that I hold in my hands, and I feel that warmth, this particular mug that my mother-in-law gave me. It makes me think of her. It says, "Hello, gorgeous." It makes me feel really yummy. The way I've made my coffee and the taste of it and the perfection of these like specific 5 ingredients. It's like a whole ritual. And then, inevitably one of my daughter's little sleepy sleepy bunny, heads come popping out through the balcony door to come out with their little silly bed head. It looks like their finger got stuck in a socket, like just really, I think that the answer is appreciation.
Yeah.
And being in like, okay, so there's that palm leaf right there, and it's this deep green and it's waving, and look, there's like this little dew beads on it from the leftover morning tropical rain. And it's just like, people would say like, oh, it's presence, but to me it's giving myself permission to feel the ecstasy of opening wider to receive sensory information, sound. There's this one guy who goes by every morning he's like this guy in his 70s. He goes by every morning on his motorcycle, like at like 6:30 a.m., listening to classic rock so loud that it's really inappropriate for the time of day in the neighborhood. And I just love that so much.
Yeah.
So like, I think it's the sound, it's the smell of the coffee, it's the visual, it's the tactile, and the taste. It's all of the five senses, and just allowing myself to savor that information.
Have you ever worked with anybody who was completely the opposite end of the spectrum? So just shut down, numb, for whatever reason, that you have been able to work with to reactivate? And if so, what is, outside of intention, what is that process?
Yeah. So we have to work really so this is, we're speaking the language of the nervous system. Our autonomic nervous system is the entire network of neurons that run through our entire body, our brain, our spinal cord, all throughout our entire body. I just found out this beautiful analogy when you look at it as a picture. The anatomy of the nervous system, it really looks like a tree inside our bodies. This whole network, it's very similar to the mycelium network and through the mushrooms. It's so beautiful. So we have to know that according to the nervous system, that which is unfamiliar registers as unsafe. And if we've had experiences in our lives that at the time it was a painful experience emotionally or physically, and we didn't have the support, the structure, the tools to fully process that experience at the time, it does get stuck in our bodies, and we can get shut down and we can numb. Being numb to sensory information happens because we've had experiences that have given us evidence that it's actually unsafe to be alive. And so we just have to understand that feeling more it doesn't feel safe for everybody. But we can do it in really small, doable pieces. Our nervous system heals and expands and opens in small, doable pieces, small, doable steps. It's called titration.
Yeah.
So like, maybe you can't have this entire symphony of sensorial information during your coffee ritual in the morning. This has been like, over time, this has been my work in my life. However, you could probably sit in an egg chair and rock for 2 minutes. And what's so cool about the nervous system is it has this thermostat set point for how much, essentially, how safe it feels to be alive. And that thermostat will make it so that we will shut down once we reach, right? Just like if you set your house to 72 degrees. I know that you're a Celsius person, but anyway, 72 degrees if you're American, and the room goes to 74, the thermostat turns on and brings the temperature down. Our bodies do the same thing. So as we've expanded into an experience that's even if it's something we quote unquote desire. So like, let's say suddenly we have our first $15,000 month, and it's like, oh my God, I've always dreamed of this. I've always wanted it. And suddenly we find ourselves frozen or in a panic or in a spin of thoughts about, I'm not going to be able to deliver. Someone's going to find out that I don't know what I'm doing. Imposter complex, right? That's our nervous system just feeling unsafe in new territory. And so what we can do is, through practices like the morning coffee and a whole bunch of drills and beautiful work we can do with our nervous systems, we can actually come to the edge of where it feels uncomfortable and signal safety there, so that instead of blowing past our edges, which is what a lot of our sort of historical personal development has taught us, like everything you want is outside your comfort zone. You just have to do it scared. And it's like, well, actually, especially for people who have a history of trauma, which is pretty much everyone, to varying degrees, that can be quite re-traumatizing and can create contraction and even collapse or hypervigilance. And so instead, we can, in small, doable pieces, expand our capacity to feel and then stay there for a while and then do it again and then do it again and then do it again. And then all of a sudden, that expanded state feels really normal and really safe. And we don't have to like try to police our thoughts or like try to do all this habit stacking to stay there. We have a new thermostat setting. So like the whole autonomic nervous system just keeps us at that new set point automatically, which is very do less and quite relaxing.
Do you think that we have to reframe our relationship with pace, like the pace of which we desire to see change?
I love this question so much. I'm going to say yes and no. So here's what's so wild in my experience is like quantum shifts are super, super available. The irony, of course, about the term quantum shift is a quantum is like the tiniest little infinitesimal amount. Like actually, if you look at quantum physics, it's like teeny tiny. But we talk about these quantum shifts as though they're a giant leap. But that's not actually what the phrase means. But anyway, but yes, we can have huge expansions for sure. But what I have found happens is that through the small doable pieces, the quantum leap or the big leap becomes available, and it becomes available as something where we stay. So it doesn't become like, oh my gosh, it's a very common story for children of entrepreneurs to have had this experience of like huge expansion and huge contraction and making a lot of money and then losing it all and then making a lot of money and then losing it all. I do not know the behind the scenes of every single one of those stories. However, what can happen is that, like I said, we can have that huge expansion, then no tools, understanding, or support to support it from a capacity perspective. So we've blown past the capacity by taking all these actions that work, but then we don't have essentially the energetic infrastructure to hold it. And so when we talk about changing our relationship to pacing, what I like to think about is, and I think this will resonate with you because I think it's like similar to what you said in Infinite Receiving in your book. The truth is, any feeling we want to have is available now. And we think that an external reality is going to finally create that feeling state. So like, I want to feel free. Okay, great. So I need to have, $10 million in the bank to feel free, or whatever amount I think, right? The truth is, I can feel free right now. So as soon as I can cultivate that feeling of freedom right now in this exact moment, which every physiological state we want is available right now. Like in meditation, we can actually literally produce DMT in our brains, like psychedelic states, without taking a single substance. So knowing that every physiological state is available to us right now, we can just give ourselves permission to feel that way. And there's a whole bunch of things we can do within our body to make that accessible, right? Because I don't think you can just do it with your mind. We cannot talk our bodies out of a way they are feeling. We can't talk ourselves out of a feeling. We have to feel our way out of feeling. So we can get into that in a minute. But anyway, so if we can actually move more and more into our capacity to feel the way we want to feel now, the funny thing is that then we really don't care so much about the external reality shifting because we already feel the way we need to feel, we want to feel. But then the external reality inevitably does shift more quickly. And then it's kind of like, oh, that's cool. That's like such a bonus. I didn't need it, but I'm thrilled to have it. And I get to have it.
Yeah.
And I also know that I am whole and complete and lacking in nothing. And I don't didn't need that. And so in terms of the pacing, we can do those small doable steps. We can titrate, and they do make those larger leaps forward more available. I don't think that we can mess with the divine timing of things. I think things just sort of are what they are, but we can make ourselves more and more available to feel those expanded states at any moment, which then collapses timelines for sure.
I think it is I think it's the story, if this, then that gets to be reframed. If I can
100%.
just do more, if I can just, so I will force the stretch of my capacity. I will go beyond where feels naturally safe for my body to be, because if I can do X, Y, and Z, then I will get that result. And what is interesting is that sometimes that does work. Frequently it doesn't, but sometimes it does work at the detriment of the feeling that you actually desire. And that's what's so fucked up about it, because then it's like nothing's working, or what's wrong with me for not feeling the way that I desire after I've put all of this hard work into getting the thing that I want, and I still feel lacking.
Can I tell a quick story about that to just drive it home?
Yeah.
So I'll never forget the moment when I got offered a book deal from Hay House. And I happened to be in New York City with Louise Hay at the time. And she was standing in a hotel lobby in Union Square, and I was leaving the hotel, and she was in this glass door, like sort of standing in the doorway. And she said something along the lines of like, "Welcome to the Hay House family," directly to me. And I promptly walked across the street to a cafe and completely had an emotional breakdown. So I was having this moment, which is, I've just been offered a book deal by Hay House. This is something, people dream about. And I could not feel the joy in it. I went into instant shame and guilt, and there was a massive spin where I could not savor the experience. I felt terrible. And so it was because I didn't know what I know now, which is that external reality was not a match for my internal capacity. And so I could not, it didn't feel, I couldn't receive it. I couldn't receive it. I did not have the receptor sites to actually receive that moment. And that's what will happen. And I think we all can appreciate what our culture has done with that is make this sort of assumption that Brene Brown talks about, foreboding joy, that like actually joy is one of the most vulnerable emotions because it makes us so aware of loss, like that could be on the other side. And we have this tendency to think that as soon as something really great happens, something terrible is going to happen. And that if we somehow like don't feel great to begin with, we'll prepare ourselves and we won't have to feel how bad the loss feels, which of course is not true. It doesn't work that way. But it's not true that terrible things just always happen after good things. What's true is that we haven't learned how to increase our capacity to receive the good things. So we essentially short circuit ourselves so that we can come back to a level of feeling good that our thermostat of our nervous system registers as safe, which is exactly what I was doing in that moment at the cafe.
And I think I just want to also just briefly emphasize, because I think that there's a lot of talk in our world about being an energetic match for the thing that you desire. And unless you're an energetic match for it, then, or the reason it hasn't shown up yet is because you are not an energetic match for it. And so I really loved what you just said about the fact that you weren't what did you say? Your energetic capacity wasn't a match for the book deal, but whatever you had been doing and potentially forcing externally on the outside, it was a match for that. And so I am
totally, my behavior led to a book deal.
So I'm really curious about this from a divine timing There are no mistakes, and that wasn't a mistake because you needed the lesson. But and maybe that's the answer, is that there are no mistakes and you needed the lesson. But I'm interested just to hear your thoughts on, well, maybe that's it. Maybe there is no question there. Maybe that's the answer. We can make the reality is that we can make anything happen. We can force, we can push, we can cajole, we can fake people into helping us manifest whatever it is that we desire. And if you on the inside don't have the capacity to hold what it is, and if you're forcing, pushing, falling your way into whatever, then there will be a readjustment.
There will be a readjustment, 100%. And I also think that, at least for me, what was happening in that moment, and this continues to be a theme, and I'm curious if this is a theme for you too. Like, I didn't have a goal of a book deal. Mm-hmm. So this is a slightly different conversation, but I do think that our work chooses us to some degree. And in my experience, my work has continued to choose me despite sometimes me not wanting to do it. Like I really wish I just like sold lip gloss, it would be easier in some ways. And like people wouldn't want to hold me accountable to all sorts of, and do all this projection in the same way. It just wouldn't require quite the same level of soul up level. And that's not to say I've never sold lip gloss. I don't know, but I'm just saying like, I think there's I know that I am doing the work I'm meant to do. Some days I'd rather do something that I deem easier. And so sometimes stuff just happens that puts us in the position to be called forward into the work that we're meant to do. And we didn't orchestrate that happening, particularly on a personal level, but on a soul level that is happening. And then it's a question of like, okay, can I expand my capacity to receive this, even though I didn't like put it on my vision board, but it is happening. So therefore it's for me.
Yeah. Even though I don't want this. And again, I mean, this is just a huge conversation, which I feel like we could literally speak for days about, but it is, for me, it's all intertwined with this idea of control. And so for somebody like me, I have created a huge amount in my life by being very intentional. And the way that I work with people is that your intention matters, and you are able to create so much from that place. And at the same time, I understand being like, there are an infinite number of answers and possibilities to every single question. There are an infinite number of pathways for me in this lifetime. And so when I start thinking about that, I'm like, and I also fundamentally believe that there are no missteps. I fundamentally believe that I'm being fully supported, and I fundamentally believe that I'm being guided. So is there a huge amount of room for my intention in all of that?
Why are we even making goals and setting? I mean, I love what you're saying here. And one of the things that I've always lived by is that like, it doesn't matter so much that which direction we go. It just matters that we go a direction so that we're moving. Because, in a boat, if you don't have your rudder in the water, you will just go wherever and you will actually capsize. Yeah. Right. You got to have the rudder down, the whole, like the keel of a boat, the whole, like, you got to have a direction. Otherwise you knock over and you drown. And so I don't think it's so much about like which decision we make or what direction we go. It's about what we make of like, how much are we there for what we're actually like, are we actually engaged? Are we present? Do we have our rudder in the water?
Yeah.
because like you said, there's an infinite number of, I think that I was going to learn the lessons I was going to learn, whether it came through that particular exchange with Louise Hay, or, maybe I was going to become an investment banker and some other thing was going to happen. Like, I don't know. A lot of it's really mystical, and that's part of the joy as well of the surrender, is really allowing ourselves to be held by the greater divine energy, which is also, I find, incredibly relaxing, which then makes my nervous system feel safer, which then allows, more oxygen, more oxytocin, more of all the feel good, yummy pleasure chemicals, and then allows my body to feel safe, which then makes me more magnetic for more of what it is that I desire, whether it's specific around, I want this specific thing to happen, or more my style, which is like, I just want to feel good.
You use the S word, surrender. Surrender it's not a swear word. I think it used to be. It used to be that idea. It felt weak, actually. It felt like an excuse to not have a dream. Now I feel very differently about surrender. I want to surrender. You talk a lot. Well, I don't know if it's a lot, actually, but you do talk about sex and pleasure and intimacy. And I think that one of the, and this ties into, I just want to say, actually, I'm going a little bit off on a tangent, but I think it's important to say that the idea that our life is about what we do, I think, is flawed. I think that the purpose of us being here is about who we be. And so when it's about who we be, we can be doing absolutely anything. And the lessons are the lessons. So I think that I just wanted to say that because it was coming to me when we were speaking before. But back to the sex bit and the surrender piece. Because of the amount of control that I've wanted to have in the past, I've never allowed myself to be fully surrendered in that way. And that feels like a big part of this next chapter of being, and is so interconnected with receiving. And it's no coincidence that this work is my own personal work right now, but receiving and surrender, and we can have a sprinkle of intention in there as well, feel absolutely intertwined. And I think that that's sex. I think that that's money. I think it's living a life that is where you're in communion with life force, actually.
I completely agree. And, you come from a birth background, right? You also have 3 kids. And to me, it always comes back to, I had 2 very different births. One of them was a surprise C-section. One of them was a VBAC without any meds. And so just having that experience of literally life coming through my body, and everything if you've studied some of the conscious birthing or, pain-free birthing, or what a hypnobirthing, just a lot of different birthing work, which
shout out
very
for
well.
The calm birth method.
Totally, like shout, thank you. Exactly. That what we know is that the more we resist in a birth setting, the more it slows down the process, and also the more we register the sensation as pain. But the more we open, the more we relax, the safer we feel, the more supported we feel, the more access we have to experiencing that sensation as possibly even pleasure, but certainly, something intense that might not always be registering as pain. But when we resist it, for sure, the clamping down, it's the same thing as if you have to go poop, and if you're trying to hold it in, it's going to be deeply uncomfortable. You need to just be in a safe place where no one's going to come in, so you can relax your bum. So that's how I think about life force. I think about my life and my energy, and I'm like, am I being a sphincter, or am I trusting and opening? And the precursors to trusting and opening are that there have to be really good boundaries.
Yeah.
When animals give birth, they go off by themselves in the darkness, in the middle of the night, so that they won't be bothered,
Yeah.
so that the predators aren't going to be out. When we are wanting to surrender for more life force to come through us, whether that's, new IP and thought leadership, or a bigger orgasm, or, creative expression, figuring out how we're going to work out this chapter in our new book, whatever the name for a program, our marketing plan, whatever it's going to be. Like, I really, it's graphic, but when we really think about a cervix or an anus, and just like, okay, am I being a sphincter, or am I opening? Am I relaxing? And how could I surrender? Is it that I don't feel safe with one of the other people I'm collaborating with? Is it that there's actually a conversation that I need to have? Is there an agreement that needs to be put in place? Is there a boundary? Like, for example, just even last week with my husband, we were having a thing, and I was in a spin, and it was a whole thing. And I hope he would be okay with me sharing this. Anyway, he was like, he's like working out and just like getting super fit, and his testosterone is increasing. And so he's just like, it's more. And I was just like, I need to know that it would be completely okay for me to be unavailable and a no for sex until I leave on this trip. And it was like, I needed to have that boundary. And like a couple hours later, I was like, come on and meet me in the bedroom. But I needed to be able to have my no to feel safe, to open. And then all of a sudden there was my turn on, but my turn on was only available because I had a good boundary in place, because first I felt safe. And so we have to know that, like, so often when we're dealing with a fear of surrender, and when we're dealing with control, it's because we have a history of having boundaries crossed.
Yeah.
And our lineage has a history of having boundaries crossed, which lives in our cells through epigenetics, through ancestral trauma. So that safety has to come first. Safety has to come first before surrender. Safety has to come first before pleasure. Safety has to come first before opening wider to receive.
Sacred no is just as important as sacred yes. And I just want to share, like, literally this morning, I'm on a mission to do the splits. And this is all part of my pole dancing journey. And I'm practicing front splits and box splits. And today was my box splits. And I was there at my pole, and Luna was standing behind me taking my photo so I could manage my progress. And the thought that I had in my head was, you need to relax your asshole. That is exactly what it was. And as soon as I did, my thighs relaxed and I was able to go just a little bit lower. And so, yes, to being able to monitor your external environment, and also bringing awareness to relax it right now. It's crazy how many times when somebody says, relax your, well, I was going to say anus, but in my circles, it is always arsehole. Relax your arsehole. You don't even realize that it's the same as the jaw. You don't realize that you're sat there with tension in your jaw, same as your bum.
And our physiology, like I was talking about before, our physiology gives us a map. It gives us, like, as so within, so without. If we want to surrender, if we want to learn to surrender in our lives, we need to find where are the patterns of control in my body, and learn to, with small, doable steps, become aware of them. So just, I have a little, 3-part: stop, signal safety, and then solve, or stop, signal safety, and then surrender, or stop, signal safety, and then savor. But problem solving, surrender, or pleasure are not advised when you don't first feel safe. And so you can't, like, it's why if you say to somebody, calm down, just like, calm down, like, you can't go from like, I feel unsafe and like, I need to control the universe, to calm. It doesn't work that way. But if you can say, like, if I'm all wound up and my husband can look me in the eyes and say, like, babe, I've got it, then my body's automatically going to calm down. right? Like we need that signal of safety, and it can come in a variety of ways, but I love how our physiology can guide us in how the energetic patterns are working in our lives, and our bodies can just be the guide, and our bodies can be the sacred practice ground.
I love this. I wonder, can you just revisit what you were saying right at the beginning about the things that you are actually doing, the practical things that you're doing now
Sure.
to help with your energetic upgrades?
Yeah, so I'm really practicing with I read this great book called Fast Like a Girl by Dr. Mindy Peltz, and did you read it?
I'm obsessed with that, and I just recently met her at the Hay House Mastermind, and I'm obsessed with her as
Yes.
well. I loved it.
Yes. She's absolutely wonderful. It was so funny. So my coach told me about that book, and so I read the book. Loved the book, started practicing fasting in alignment with my cycle because I schedule my life. Cyclical awareness is a huge part of my business and my life and my time management, how I parent, my sex life. It's like everything, right? Even how I eat. But I didn't know about fasting in concert with your cycle. And so I started doing that, which just helped me access some deeper energy reserves. It's really interesting when we can ride this edge in our bodies of consciously, in a loving way, bringing ourselves to states of discomfort in a controlled, right? In a controlled way, and then lovingly bringing ourselves back from that edge. Every time we do that, we increase our capacity to feel safe in more expanded states. So, for example, sitting in the sauna to the point of feeling discomfort, doing high intensity interval training to the point of just barely feeling like you're going to throw up, and then backing away and saying to yourself, like, it's over now, and giving yourself the full rest cycle so you can go back in. A cold plunge, whatever we can do to create these states of discomfort that are temporary, or like a 24-hour fast or a 36-hour fast. There's so many benefits physiologically. So like I'm just working with high intensity interval training to increase my metabolic capacity, my mitochondria's ability to make energy. I'm working on increasing my vitamin D levels. I'm doing cold plunges when I can, because cold plunging also helped me really work through my birth trauma. Every time I would get in the cold plunge, I could feel how it was that same trauma of like, I'm stuck and I can't get out. Like it was literally, I don't know what it was. Anyway, it was the same feeling I had when I was giving birth, especially the first time, which was a bumpy one. But like, then I was able to stay, with a girlfriend holding my hand, and I was able to repattern. And now I don't have that happen anymore. Now it just feels exhilarating. So just being able to witness ourselves go through consciously putting ourselves in discomfort and then lovingly taking ourselves out of it so that we can prove to our bodies, A, I can do this. B, you're safe. C, you're loved. D, you're capable of far more than you thought.
I feel that especially with the cold plunge, and I have the sea like 5 minutes away from me in the car. So when I drive down to the sea, it's now very cold. Getting into it and just being like, I can do hard things. I'm doing hard things, like, and getting past that bit of when everything is like, what is going on, to is
the capacity building is so huge.
Yeah. And the reason that I love the cold plunge possibly more than anything is that it always feels stressful getting in. It always feels stressful getting in. But
because like when you get in a sauna, it's kind of like feels kind of great mostly.
Yeah.
But the cold plunge, like I'm never going to be like, oh, that's going to feel so delicious.
Easy. Yeah. So it's
good. After, you feel so alive.
You feel
like
so
I did
alive.
a cold plunge this weekend. So alive. I did a cold plunge this weekend with some women at my retreat. I led them through a HIIT workout. We were like chanting about our mitochondria. It was amazing. We sweated our asses off. And then we got in the cold plunge. And afterwards, I literally felt like I was on mushrooms.
Yeah.
I mean, it was like I was having this psychedelic
Yeah.
experience. It was so cool that my physiology made possible no
Yeah.
substance is necessary.
No substance is necessary. I love it.
But also take the mushrooms sometimes. I mean, like there's no hierarchy here.
Yeah. I mean, mushrooms are not my medicine of choice, although I have had some incredible experiences in the last couple of years with them. I, yeah, ayahuasca. I mean, I'm into the plant medicine. I'm into it. I'm not going to lie, but very sparingly. And what is beautiful is the fact that
Same.
I feel like I have cultivated a life and an environment where I understand everything really that we've been talking about. Is this understanding that everything that you desire, every feeling, every lesson, every teaching is within you. And so then it is about those, it's about the titration. So the small daily steps to allow you to access that. And then you go on a retreat. You have a plant medicine journey. You have these peak experiences that may accelerate your awareness or increase your expansion, increase your capacity because it's all there right at once. And I have to say that because these tools and medicines are so powerful, being in an environment that is very, very safe and being with people who are absolute masters in what it is, what they do and how they facilitate is so important, because it is with tools like that that it is very easy to crash and burn, because it's like you're being blasted wide open. But again, that's why your daily meditation, that's why your cold plunge, that's why the sauna, when you're doing that on a daily basis with a whole level of intention around increasing capacity, that's when those ceremonies and those peak experiences, retreats, can be so, even more rewarding, because you have that foundational baseline. Oh, life is good.
Totally. Yeah. And that's when you get those sorts of quantum, quote unquote quantum shifts, because you have been doing that smaller daily thermostat reset.
Yeah.
So then it feels like this gargantuan shift, but actually you were just building that capacity over time. So now when that huge shift became available, you were just available for it.
I love this. Right, Kate. I've been asking the same 6 questions to all of my incredible guests in celebration of the launch of Infinite Receiving, the book. So I would love to ask you these questions too.
I just want to say before you do, I really loved your book. I mean, it's really excellent. So I'm sure that your listeners have already purchased their copy and whatever they need to do. But I just want to say, like, I've been studying energetic and spiritual and practical work around money since I was 14 years old. We're talking decades. And I found your book to be there were things in there that I'd never heard before. There were things in there that I'd never heard in that particular way. And I think it's a really important book. So I just wanted to say that I personally found it very valuable.
Thank you so much. I love you. Thank you. What does infinite receiving mean to you?
It means over time expanding my capacity to be a channel for life force.
How good are you at receiving infinitely right now?
I'm pretty good at it. I'm pretty good at it. And I also know there's so much more available.
Yeah.
Like it really feels like this sort of, just this like deep, deep, infinite ocean that's just the deeper you go, and the more becomes available. So Marty, comparatively speaking to 30 years ago, like phenomenal. And also I just know there's so much more.
One of the pillars in infinite receiving is all about the pillar of love. And I am curious, where or who in your life right now can you allow to love you just a little bit more?
I think my husband, he continues to be a wonderful place for me to practice receiving in a way that previously did not feel safe. And now having him, I mean, we've been together for over 12 years, but He still really brings it in terms of his level of presence and devotion and service. And I could let him love me even just a little bit more.
I love that. Shout out to Mike Watts. What is your greatest attribute?
My enthusiasm.
Yeah, it's infectious. What are you consciously working on manifesting right now?
Oh, a cold plunge.
That is already done.
I live in a condo where like I don't have, and I haven't figured out how to have access to a cold plunge daily in my home. So I'm manifesting something where I can have access daily to a cold plunge.
Okay. We're holding the vision for that for you. And
Thank
finally, where can you allow yourself to be a little more supported right now?
In the marketing in my company. I am an excellent marketer, a far above average marketer. And because I am so good at it, I have a tendency to not delegate it to the degree that is possible. Yeah. And so for 2024, that is for sure a big focus is taking myself more and more out of the marketing, really receiving more and more support there so that I can be more focused on content and collaboration.
Beautiful. Kate, today has been such a gift. Thank you for bringing all of your richness to this conversation. Please, can you share with my gorgeous listeners where they can find out more about all of your incredible work?
Yes, absolutely. Thank you, Susie. So if you go to Instagram, at Kate Northrup is my Instagram handle. And if you just shoot me a DM with the word melt, you will get a guide that is my pressure relief guide. And the first entry in the guide, there are 6 incredible strategies to shift your reality so that you have less stress and pressure immediately without your external circumstances needing to shift at all. But the first entry is my favorite nervous system healing tool to signal safety in my body. And so I want to pass that along to you. So just shoot me a DM that says melt on Instagram at Kate Northrup. And then katenorthrup.com is also a wonderful place to come find me. And then my podcast that I post weekly is called Plenty, which is definitely like a wonderful place. If you like infinite receiving, I think you'll also love Plenty.
Oh, thank you so much. We'll make sure that all of that information is in the show notes. And if you have loved this episode as much as I have, do me a favor, please share this with at least one of your friends who you know would benefit from hearing all of this beautiful wisdom from the incredible Kate Northrup. And in the meantime, please remember that faith plus action equals miracles. Thank you for listening to Infinite Receiving with me, Susie Ashworth. I'd love to share with you my Infinite Receiving activation audio. Go to susieashworth.com/activate infinite receiving.